The ship screamed as it fell through the atmosphere. Hyun Tae-sung gripped his seat while alarms blared around him. The research vessel Mugunghwa had been his home for 6 months, but now it was dying. Something had gone wrong with the main drive, and the AI could barely control their descent. "Brace for impact," the computer's calm voice said. Tae-sung closed his eyes and waited. The crash was violent. Metal groaned and twisted. Equipment flew through the cabin. Then everything went dark. When Tae-sung woke up, his head throbbed with pain. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. He unbuckled himself and stumbled through the tilted cabin. The emergency lights flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. Outside, he could hear sounds. Strange sounds. Chirping, roaring, rustling. This was not Earth. This was Kepler 442, an uncharted planet they had been surveying. And now he was stuck here. Tae-sung pushed open the emergency hatch. Humid air rushed in, thick and heavy. He climbed out and looked around. The ship had crashed into a jungle. Trees rose high above, their leaves a dark purple color. Vines as thick as his arm hung everywhere. The sky was orange and 2 small moons hung near the horizon. He was alone. Completely alone. The first 3 days were the hardest. Tae-sung worked frantically to salvage what he could from the wreckage. The fabricator still worked, but it had limited power. He grabbed tools, medical supplies, his research scanner, and food packets. The ship's water tanks were intact, which was lucky. He would need every advantage to survive. The gravity here was stronger than Earth. Every step felt heavy. His muscles ached constantly. By the end of the first day, he was exhausted just from walking around the crash site. On the second day, he heard it. A deep growl from the jungle. Something big was watching him. Tae-sung froze. His heart pounded. He slowly reached for a metal pipe he had been using as a walking stick. The growling grew louder. Then he saw it. The creature stepped out from behind a massive tree. It stood on 6 legs, each ending in curved claws. Its body was covered in gray scales that looked like stone. The head was long and filled with teeth like crystal shards. It was easily 12 feet tall. Tae-sung's mind raced. He was a xenobiologist. He knew animal behavior. This thing was a predator and he was prey. Running would trigger its hunting instinct. Fighting seemed impossible. But maybe he could scare it. He raised the pipe and yelled. He made himself look bigger. He banged the pipe against the ship's hull, making loud, clanging sounds. The creature tilted its head, confused. It took a step forward. Tae-sung grabbed a piece of sharp metal from the wreckage. It was not much of a weapon, but it was all he had. The creature charged. Everything happened fast. Tae-sung dodged to the side, and the creature's claws scraped against the ship. He swung the metal shard and cut across the creature's front leg. It roared in pain and anger. Green blood dripped onto the ground. The creature turned for another attack, but Tae-sung was already climbing onto the ship's broken wing. The creature jumped up, snapping at his feet. He kicked hard, hitting its face. It fell back, growling. They stared at each other. Tae-sung held his ground, breathing hard. His hands shook. Finally, the creature backed away. It was hurt and confused. This prey fought back. It disappeared into the jungle. Tae-sung collapsed. He had survived his first real encounter with this world. He named the creature a hexaclaw because of its 6 legs, and he knew this would not be his last fight. The next few weeks changed him. Tae-sung built walls around the ship using salvaged metal panels. He created a water filtration system from spare parts. He studied the local plants with his scanner, learning which ones were safe to eat. Some tasted terrible, but they kept him alive. Hunting became necessary. The food packets would not last forever. Tae-sung watched the smaller animals around his camp. There were rabbit-sized creatures with 4 legs and long tails. They were fast but predictable. He built traps using wire from the ship. His first successful hunt felt like a victory. The meat was tough and had a strange taste, but it was protein. He cooked it over a fire made from local wood. Smoke rose into the orange sky. At night he heard the jungle come alive. Roars echoed in the darkness. Things moved through the trees. Tae-sung kept his fire burning and his makeshift spear close. Sleep came in short bursts. He started keeping a log. Every day he recorded what he learned. Which plants were edible, which creatures were dangerous. The patrol patterns of the hexaclaws. He did this partly for scientific reasons, but mostly to keep his mind busy. The loneliness was crushing. 1 month after the crash, Tae-sung stood at the edge of his camp and looked at what he had built. Walls surrounded the crashed ship. A rainwater collector fed into filtered tanks. Drying meat hung from racks. Weapons lined the walls. spears, clubs, and blades made from ship parts. He was no longer just surviving. He was adapting. His body had changed too. The heavy gravity had made his muscles stronger. His reflexes were faster. Scars covered his arms and legs from various encounters with the local wildlife. His face was harder, his eyes more alert. Tae-sung thought about home, about his family and soul, about his research team. Were they looking for him? Did they think he was dead? He pushed those thoughts away. Hope was dangerous. It made you weak. Instead, he focused on today, on this moment, on staying alive one more day. A sound came from the jungle. Tae-sung grabbed his spear. Another hexaclaw probably, or maybe something worse. It did not matter. He would face it like he faced everything else on this world, with determination, with intelligence, and with the will to survive no matter what. The jungle was his enemy, but he was learning its rules, and one day he would become its master. 6 months had passed since the crash. Tae-sung barely recognized himself anymore. His body had adapted to the heavy gravity. He could run faster and jump higher than ever before. His skin was darker from the sun. His hair had grown long and he tied it back with strips of leather. The camp had grown too. He had built 3 separate shelters around the main crash site. Each one was fortified with walls and had supplies stored inside. If one shelter fell, he had backups. He had also mapped the surrounding jungle for miles, marking water sources, good hunting grounds, and dangerous areas. But now he had a new problem. A big problem. The creature appeared 3 weeks ago. Tae-sung called it a storm beast because when it moved, it sounded like thunder. It was massive, nearly 50 feet long from head to tail. Its body was covered in scales that looked like metal. They shimmered blue and silver in the sunlight. The creature had 4 legs as thick as tree trunks and a mouth filled with rows of sharp teeth. Worse, the storm beast was not alone. A pack of hexaclaws followed it. They were smaller predators, but they obeyed the storm beast like soldiers. Together, they were devastating. The storm beast had moved into Tae-sung's territory. It destroyed one of his outer shelters, crushing it flat. It killed the prey animals that Tae-sung hunted for food. The hexaclaws patrolled the area, making it dangerous to travel. Tae-sung had a choice. He could abandon 6 months of work and move somewhere else. Or he could fight. He chose to fight. For 2 weeks, Tae-sung studied the storm beast. He followed it from a distance, hiding in the trees and behind rocks. He watched how it moved, what it ate, and where it slept. He took notes in his log. He needed to find a weakness. The storm beast was incredibly strong. Its metallic scales could probably stop any weapon he had. But Tae-sung noticed something. Behind its front legs, where the armor plates connected, there was a gap. The scales were thinner there. It was a small target, but it was something. He also noticed the creature's behavior. The storm beast was territorial but lazy. It preferred to ambush prey rather than chase it. It slept during the hottest part of the day, and it always traveled the same paths through the jungle. Tae-sung formed a plan. It was dangerous and probably stupid, but it was his only chance. He spent 5 days preparing. Using the ship's fabricator and the last of its power cells, he created special equipment. He made explosive charges from the ship's fuel cells. He sharpened metal stakes from hull plating. He created noisemakers that would emit loud sounds. Then he dug the trap. It took 3 days of hard work. He found a spot along the storm beast's usual path and dug a massive pit. The heavy gravity made the work exhausting, but he pushed through. He lined the bottom with sharpened stakes, each one angled upward. Then he covered the pit with branches and leaves. Now came the hard part. He had to make the storm beast come to him. Tae-sung started the hunt at dawn. He placed noisemakers throughout the jungle, setting them to go off at different times. He created scent trails using the blood of prey animals. Then he found the storm beast and did something insane. He threw a spear at it. The spear bounced off the creature's armor, but it got its attention. The storm beast roared and turned toward him. Its pack of hexaclaws rushed forward. Tae-sung ran. He was faster than before, and he knew this jungle better than any creature here. He jumped over fallen trees and swung on vines. The hexaclaws chased him, snapping at his heels. He could hear the storm beast crashing through the trees behind them. He triggered the first noisemaker. It screeched and wailed. The hexaclaws hesitated, confused. Tae-sung kept running. The chase lasted all day. Tae-sung led the creatures in circles through his territory. He triggered more noisemakers. He threw small explosive charges that made loud bangs but did little damage. He wanted to exhaust them and make them angry. By evening, the storm beast was furious. It had been chasing this tiny creature all day. Its pride was wounded. It wanted blood. Taesung led it toward the trap. His lungs burned. His legs ached. But he could not stop now. The second day of the hunt was worse. Taesung had barely slept. He ate while running, chewing dried meat from his pack. The storm beast was still following, even more enraged than before. It had stopped caring about everything else. It only wanted to kill him. On the third day, Taesung finally led the creature to the trap. He ran across the covered pit easily. He was light enough that the branches held. Behind him, the massive storm beast charged forward. It did not see the trap until it was too late. The ground collapsed. The storm beast fell into the pit with a thunderous crash. The stakes pierced its body. It roared in pain and rage, thrashing wildly. But the pit was deep and the stakes held it in place. Taesung stood at the edge, breathing hard. The hexaclaws circled the pit, confused. Their leader was trapped. They looked at Taesung with what might have been fear. He raised his spear and yelled. The hexaclaws ran away, but the storm beast was not dead yet. It thrashed and roared, trying to climb out. Green blood pooled at the bottom of the pit. Taesung knew what he had to do. He climbed down into the pit, carefully avoiding the injured creature's snapping jaws. His heart pounded. This was the most dangerous moment. The storm beast saw him and lunged, but the stakes held it in place. Taesung found the weak spot behind its front leg. He drove his spear deep into the gap in its armor. The creature screamed. He pulled out the spear and stabbed again. And again. Finally, the storm beast stopped moving. Its breathing slowed and then stopped completely. Taesung climbed out of the pit and collapsed on the ground. He was covered in green blood and dirt. His arms shook. But he was alive. He had killed the apex predator of this territory. Over the next few days, Taesung noticed changes. The hexaclaws no longer came near his camp. Other predators avoided his territory. They could smell the storm beast's death. They sensed that something had changed. A new apex predator ruled this part of the jungle now, and it walked on two legs. Taesung dragged parts of the storm beast back to his camp. The meat would last for weeks. The scales could be used for better armor. The bones could make stronger weapons, but more than that, he had proven something to himself. He was not just surviving anymore. He was thriving. He had adapted to this world. He had learned its rules and used them against its strongest creature. Standing on top of his fortified camp, looking out over the jungle, Taesung felt something he had not felt in months. He felt powerful. 1 year had passed since Taesung crashed on this planet. He had marked each day on the wall of his main shelter. 365 marks. 365 days of survival. He was exploring a new area today. There was a waterfall about 2 miles from his camp, and he had heard strange sounds coming from that direction. As a xenobiologist, his curiosity never died. Even here, even alone, he wanted to understand this world. The waterfall was beautiful. Water crashed down from high cliffs into a clear pool. The spray created rainbows in the orange sunlight. Taesung filled his water containers and was about to leave when he heard it. A whining sound. Soft and desperate. He followed the sound to a cave behind the waterfall. The entrance was narrow, but he squeezed through. Inside, the cave opened into a larger space. The smell hit him first. Death and decay. His eyes adjusted to the dim light. He saw a large body lying on the cave floor. It was a predator, maybe 12 feet long with 4 powerful legs. Its fur was dark blue with silver markings. Large wounds covered its body. It had been dead for several days. Then he heard the whining again. Near the body, huddled together, were small creatures. Babies. Taesung counted 6 of them, each about the size of a cat. Most were not moving, but 3 of them were still alive, barely. Taesung knelt down carefully. The babies did not run. They were too weak. He could see their ribs through their fur. They were starving. He used his scanner to examine them. The data showed they were similar to Earth canines in some ways. They were pack animals, social creatures. They ate meat but could digest some plants too. The scanner also showed they had high intelligence for their development stage. Taesung looked at the dead mother. She had fought something, probably a hexaclaw, and won, but her wounds got infected and she died. The babies had been trapped here, too young to hunt, too young to survive alone. He should leave them. That was the smart choice. They were wild predators, dangerous, unpredictable. He had enough problems already. But Tae-sung looked at the three survivors and made a different choice. Maybe it was loneliness. Maybe it was scientific curiosity. Maybe he was just tired of being alone. He carefully picked up the three living babies and carried them back to his camp. The first week was difficult. The babies, which Tae-sung called drewolves because of their wolf-like appearance and strange dragon-like features, did not trust him. They hissed and snapped when he came near. But they were too weak to fight much. He named them Yuri, Bom, and Sul. Yuri was the largest with bright amber eyes. Bom was the smallest but the most curious. Sul was quiet and watchful. Tae-sung fed them small pieces of cooked meat. At first they would not eat, but hunger eventually won. They ate from his hands, always watching him with wary eyes. He studied their biology carefully. The scanner showed they needed specific nutrients. He mixed supplements from his medical supplies with the meat. Slowly the drewolves grew stronger. Training them was harder. They were wild animals, not pets. When they got bigger, they could easily hurt him. Tae-sung used techniques he remembered from Earth animal training, but he had to adapt everything for alien psychology. He established feeding times and kept them consistent. He rewarded good behavior with food and attention. He never hit them or showed fear. Fear made predators attack. By the second month, the drewolves had grown significantly. They were the size of large dogs now. Their fur had thickened and their teeth were sharp. They could run fast and jump high. Bom was the first to truly trust him. She started following Tae-sung around the camp. When he worked on repairs, she would lie nearby and watch. When he called her name, she would come. Yuri took longer. She was more independent and cautious. But one day, when a small predator tried to enter the camp, Yuri attacked it. She killed it quickly and then looked at Tae-sung as if asking for approval. He praised her and gave her extra meat. After that, Yuri was loyal. Sul was the smartest. He learned the fastest and seemed to understand what Tae-sung wanted before being told. Sul would alert him to danger by making a specific sound. He learned to stay quiet during hunts and to follow hand signals. 4 months after finding them, Tae-sung took the drewolves on their first real hunt. He was tracking a large prey animal similar to a deer. The drewolves stayed close, moving silently through the jungle. When they found the prey, Tae-sung gave hand signals. Yuri and Bom circled left. Sul stayed with him on the right. They moved together like a real pack. When Tae-sung attacked with his spear, the drewolves rushed in from the sides. The prey had no chance. They brought the kill back to camp together. Tae-sung felt something he had not felt in over a year. He felt like part of a family. The drewolves continued to grow. By 6 months, they were fully grown, each weighing over 200 pounds. They were beautiful and deadly. Their fur was thick and could turn away claws. Their jaws could crush bone. Their intelligence was remarkable. Yuri became the leader of their small pack. She was protective and brave. Bom was the scout, always exploring and alert for danger. Sul was the strategist, patient and clever. Together with Tae-sung, they were unstoppable. Other predators learned to avoid Tae-sung's territory. The smell of the drewolves warned them away. Hexaclaws that once hunted near his camp disappeared. Even larger creatures gave them space. Tae-sung realized he had done something incredible. He had taken wild alien predators and domesticated them. It should have been impossible. These were not Earth animals shaped by thousands of years of evolution alongside humans. These were completely alien creatures, but somehow it worked. Maybe it was because the drewolves were naturally social. Maybe it was because Tae-sung understood animal behavior. Or maybe it was because both he and the drewolves needed each other. One evening, Tae-sung sat by his fire with all 3 drewolves resting nearby. Yuri's head was on his lap. Bom was cleaning her paws. Sul watched the jungle with alert eyes. Tae-sung thought about how much things had changed. A year ago, he was alone and desperate. Now he had companions. He had family. He was not just surviving anymore. He was building something new. Something that should not exist but did. A bond between human and alien. A partnership born from mutual need and trust. The jungle night was full of sounds. But inside the camp, surrounded by his fire and his pack, Tae-sung felt something unexpected. He felt at home. 18 months after the crash, Tae-sung heard the sound of engines. He was checking his traps near the waterfall when the noise cut through the jungle. It was a ship, and it was landing near his camp. His emergency beacon had finally been answered. Tae-sung ran back through the jungle. Yuri, Bom, and Sul ran beside him. They sensed his urgency and stayed alert. When they reached the camp, he saw a salvage vessel settling onto the ground about 100 meters away. It was called the Hagium, according to the markings on its hull. The landing ramp opened and people walked out. Actual people. Taesung had not seen another human in 18 months. For a moment he just stared. There were 5 of them. The leader was a tall man named Dae-hyun, according to the name patch on his suit. He had a confident walk and sharp eyes. Behind him were 3 crew members and 1 woman who looked different from the others. She carried scanning equipment and wore a xenozoology patch. Dae-hyun stopped when he saw Taesung. His eyes went wide. Taesung knew what they saw. A man in clothes made from animal hides and ship material, scars covering his arms and face, long hair tied back, and most shocking, 3 massive alien predators standing beside him watching the strangers with intelligent eyes. "Are you from the Mugunghwa?" Dae-hyun called out. I am Hyun Tae-sung, xenobiologist," Taesung replied. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. He had not spoken to anyone in so long. The crew members looked nervous. One had his hand on a weapon. The woman with the scanning equipment stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the Dray Wolves. "Those creatures," she said. "They are not attacking you. They are with me. Their names are Yuri, Bom, and Sul," Taesung explained. Dae-hyun approached slowly, hands visible. "We picked up your emergency beacon. We are salvage crew. We came to recover what is left of your ship." Taesung felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Salvage? Yes, the Mugunghwa is registered as lost. We have legal rights to salvage materials and equipment." Dae-hyun looked around at the fortified camp, though we expected to find only wreckage. Not a survivor. "The ship is mine. This camp is mine. This territory is mine." Taesung's voice was firm. The tension increased. One of the crew members, a man with a scarred face, laughed. "You have been alone too long. You do not own a planet," Sul growled low. The crew member stepped back. Dae-hyun held up his hand. "Let us talk calmly. We can work something out." They gathered near Taesung's fire. The woman introduced herself as Hana, a xenozoologist. She could not stop staring at the Dray Wolves. The creatures had settled around Taesung but watched the strangers carefully. "This is incredible," Hana said. "These are native predators. You have domesticated them?" "Yes, I found them as babies. I raised them. We hunt together now." Taesung gave them water and some food. It felt strange to be a host. Dae-hyun got to business. "We can take you back to civilization. Your family probably thinks you are dead, but we need to salvage the ship." "That is our job." Taesung shook his head. "The ship is my shelter and my workshop. I cannot let you take it apart." "Then what do you suggest?" Dae-hyun asked. "A trade. I can guide you to resources on this planet. I have mapped water sources, mineral deposits, and safe areas. I can provide information about the local ecosystem. In return, you give me supplies, seeds, and equipment. And you leave my ship alone," the crew members muttered among themselves. The scarred man spoke up. "Why should we trade? We can just take what we want." Yuri stood up, her eyes locked on the man. She was huge. Nearly 300 pounds of muscle and teeth. The man went quiet. Dae-hyun considered the offer. "You want to stay here?" "Yes. Why?" Hana asked. "You could go home, see your family, return to civilization." Taesung looked at his camp, at the walls he built, at the shelters, at his Dray Wolves. "This is my home now. I have spent 18 months building this, learning this world. I am not ready to leave." That night, negotiations continued. Dae-hyun agreed to trade supplies for information. He would report Taesung's location to authorities and let them know he was alive. But Taesung could stay if he wanted. Not everyone was happy with this arrangement. The scarred crew member, whose name was Kwan, kept arguing that they should take what they wanted. 2 other crew members agreed with him. On the 3rd night, Taesung was woken by Sul's warning growl. He grabbed his spear and moved quietly through the camp. He found Kwan and the 2 other crew members trying to break into one of his storage shelters. The Dray Wolves surrounded them silently. Yuri blocked the exit. Bom and Sul circled from the sides. The 3 men froze, realizing they were trapped. "Do not move," Taesung said calmly. "They will not hurt you if you stay still. Call them off." Kwan demanded. "Why?" "You are stealing from me." Dae-hyun and Hana arrived, woken by the noise. Dae-hyun looked angry when he saw what his crew had tried to do. "Yuri, Bom, Sul back," Taesung commanded. The Dray Wolves moved away but stayed alert. The 3 crew members ran back to their ship. I apologize, Dae-hyun said. I will make sure they stay on the ship from now on. Your crew does not respect this place. They see only profit, Taesung said. Hana spoke up. I respect what you have done here. What you have achieved is extraordinary. You have proven that humans can adapt to alien worlds, that we can form bonds with alien life. This is bigger than salvage rights. Over the next few days, Hana spent time studying the Dreywolves and documenting Taesung's survival methods. She was amazed by everything. The camp's design, the hunting techniques, the relationship between human and alien predator. You could teach others, she said. This could change how we colonize new worlds. Maybe. Someday. But not yet, Taesung replied. When the Hagum prepared to leave, Dae-hyun gave Taesung a communication device. Use this if you change your mind, or if you need help. We will spread word about you. I think others will want to visit. Hana left him her research notes and promised to return. What you're doing here matters, she said. Do not forget that. Taesung watched the ship take off. Part of him wanted to be on it, to go home, to see his family, but a bigger part of him knew he was exactly where he needed to be. He turned back to his camp. Yuri bumped her head against his hand. Bam and Sul waited nearby. The jungle around them was filled with life and danger and possibility. Taesung had been given a choice. Rescue or remain. Civilization or wilderness, the old life or the new. He chose the new. The engines faded into the orange sky. Taesung walked back to his fire, his pack following close behind. He was home. 2 years had passed since the crash. Taesung sat on the roof of his main shelter and watched another ship land. It was the 4th one this month. Word about the lone hunter of Kepler 442 had spread fast across known space. His settlement had grown dramatically. Using supplies traded from various visitors, he had built proper structures. There were greenhouses where he grew a mix of earth plants and compatible native species. Storage buildings held preserved food for the long rainy season. The walls were stronger now, reinforced with proper materials. But the biggest change was not the buildings. It was the Dreywolves Yuri and Sul had mated 8 months ago. Their litter of 5 pups was now half-grown and learning to hunt. Bam had bonded with a wild male that wandered into their territory, and she had 3 pups of her own. Taesung now had a pack of 11 Dreywolves. They were not wild anymore. They were the first generation of truly domesticated alien animals. Each one responded to commands. Each one protected the settlement. And each one had their own personality. The ship that landed today was different from the usual salvage crews or supply traders. This was a research vessel from the Galactic Science Council. Scientists and xenobiologists wanted to study what Taesung had accomplished. Among them was Hana. She had returned as she promised, but this time she led an official research team. Taesung, she called, waving as she walked down the ramp. He climbed down from the shelter to greet her. The Dreywolves gathered around him protectively, but they recognized Hana and relaxed. You brought friends, Taesung said, gesturing at the dozen scientists behind her. I brought colleagues, people who need to see this with their own eyes. Hana looked around at the settlement. You have built so much. Over the next few days, the research team documented everything. They studied the Dreywolves' behavior. They analyzed the crop hybrids Taesung had created. They mapped his territory and interviewed him about his survival techniques. But not everyone who visited had good intentions. Some saw this planet as an opportunity for profit. Mining companies wanted the mineral deposits Taesung had discovered. Hunting expeditions wanted to capture wild Dreywolves to sell as exotic pets. Colonization corporations wanted to terraform the entire planet. Taesung refused them all. This planet is not for sale, he told a corporate representative. The ecosystem here is balanced. The creatures are intelligent. This is not a place to exploit. You do not own this planet, the representative argued. One man cannot claim an entire world. I do not claim to own it. But I live here. I am part of this ecosystem now. And I will protect it. Behind him, 11 Dreywolves growled in agreement. The corporations complained to the Galactic Council. They said Taesung had no legal right to block development. But public opinion was on his side. News of the human who survived alone and formed bonds with alien predators had captured imaginations everywhere. His survival log sold millions of copies. Documentaries about him won awards. People called him a hero. Others called him crazy. But everyone was watching to see what happened next. The Galactic Council sent a representative named Junwoo to investigate. He was an older man with kind eyes and a calm manner. He spent 2 weeks at the settlement just observing. One evening, Junwoo sat with Tae-sung by the fire. The Dray wolves slept nearby, the pups tumbling over each other in play. "The council is considering something unprecedented," Junwoo said. "They want to designate this planet as humanity's first integration colony." "What does that mean?" Tae-sung asked. "Instead of terraforming and changing the planet to suit humans, we would adapt to it. Learn from it. Become part of it like you have. It would be a new model for colonization. One based on coexistence rather than conquest." Tae-sung was quiet for a long time. "That is a big responsibility." "Yes, it would mean more people coming here. Scientists, settlers, students. You would need to teach them how to survive, how to respect this world, how to form bonds with the native species like you did with the Dray wolves. What if they fail? What if they destroy what I have built? That is the risk. But if it works, it could change everything. Humanity has always forced planets to adapt to us. Maybe it is time we learn to adapt to them." Tae-sung thought about Yuri, Bom, and Sul, about how 3 orphaned babies had become his family, about how this hostile jungle had become his home. He had not tried to conquer this world. He had joined it. "I will do it," he said finally. "But there will be rules. Strict rules. No unauthorized hunting. No exploitation. Anyone who comes here must respect the ecosystem." Agreed. Over the next 6 months, the settlement transformed again. Hana returned with her team to establish a research station. The first group of students arrived to learn from Tae-sung. He taught them tracking, hunting, plant identification, and most importantly, respect for the planet and its creatures. Some students succeeded. They learned quickly and adapted well. Others could not handle the harsh conditions and left. Tae-sung did not judge them. This life was not for everyone. A breeding program began for the Dray wolves. Tae-sung supervised it carefully, ensuring the animals were treated well and never forced into anything. Several of the students formed bonds with younger Dray wolves, just as he had with his original 3. News spread to other human colonies. People from different planets came to see what integration looked like. Some left inspired, others left scared, but everyone left changed. One day, Tae-sung stood at the edge of his territory with Yuri beside him. She was older now, with gray starting to show in her fur. Her pups were fully grown and had territories of their own. The jungle stretched before them, alive with sounds. He thought about where he started. A scared survivor clinging to wreckage. Now he was a teacher. A pioneer. A bridge between 2 worlds. His communication device beeped. Another ship requesting permission to land. More students wanting to learn. More scientists wanting to study. Tae-sung approved the landing. This was his purpose now. Not just to survive, but to show others how to live in harmony with alien worlds. He had built shelter from wreckage. He had hunted the apex predator. He had survived impossible odds. And then, most remarkably, he had domesticated the undomesticatable. But his greatest achievement was not what he did alone. It was what he was teaching others to do. That night, the settlement glowed with lights from multiple buildings. Voices carried on the wind. Humans and Dray wolves living together. The crashed ship still stood in the center, a reminder of where it all began. Tae-sung added another mark to his wall, 730 days. 2 full years. But he was not counting days until rescue anymore. He was counting days of a new life, a better life. Outside, the jungle called with its eternal song. Somewhere in the darkness, a hexaclaw roared. A storm beast answered. And in the settlement, Dray wolves howled in response, marking their territory and protecting their home. Tae-sung smiled. He had crashed here as a scientist. He had survived as a hunter. He had adapted as a predator. Now he was something more. He was a guardian of this world, a teacher of new ways, a living symbol of what humanity could become when it chose coexistence over conquest. The jungle had tested him and found him worthy. Now he would make sure others could pass the same test. His story was far from over. It was just beginning a new chapter, and this chapter would be written by many hands, both human and alien, working together under the orange sky of Kepler 442d. The lone survivor had become a community, and that community would change the galaxy forever.